Deshaun Watson, I'm sure you caught this. The New York Times put out a report a couple days ago about Deshaun Watson and what has been going on that was not uncovered with the masseuses and all the alleged, the civil suits and all that sort. But the New York Times report, Michael, this came out here not too long ago, and it said that Deshaun Watson, he had publicly said that he had 40 different massage therapists across 5 years in Houston. Well, the Times report found out that he booked appointments with at least 66 different women in just 17 months from the fall of 2019 through the spring of 2021. There are now 2 additional civil suits that have been filed, bringing that total to 24. The Houston Texans are now being implicated in this as well, as they were almost helping him with the facility where some of these massages would take place here. With everything that we saw from this New York Times report, I'm sure you read it. I read it last night. I saw the excerpts earlier in the week. What was your reaction when you found out another chapter of this unfortunate situation?
Well, for me, Femi, I can't imagine that the New York Times knows more about this case than the National Football League, the Houston Texans, and specifically the Cleveland Browns. I mean, the first rule when you enter scouting, when you go into the Mafia, you're watching The Sopranos now. When you enter the Mafia, you have to take this blood oath, right? You prick your finger and you swear to the family. When you enter into scouting, the first rule you learn that you have to agree to is that you will learn more about the player before you draft them than after you draft them. That's the first rule of scouting. We're going to know everything about this guy, down to how much toilet paper he goes through a month before we draft him. And for me to wrap my hands around, and I think Jenny Ventros, I think that's her name.
Yep.
She does a wonderful job. She's a great reporter. If she's doing this at a higher level than the Texans, then a higher level than the NFL, then a higher level than the Cleveland Browns, there's something wrong with the system. Look, if you're the Cleveland Browns, right, and you're interested, and you've known you might be interested since the end of the season, or actually since the middle of the season, when Baker Mayfield's throwing interceptions, you got to say to yourself, we got to go after Watson. All right, so go hire Jim Rockford, $200 a day plus expensive. Not bad, right? Get him in his go out there and start investigating the case. Like, you start investigating the case. Hire 2 private eyes. Hire Bo Diddley, the guy that does the Arby's commercial. Do something, right? Right? Do something. Like, I'm not making this decision until I know everything. And for them to plead ignorance, well, we didn't know this, or that allegedly plead, I find that hard to believe. I find that malpractice if that's the case. Andrew Barry, how does DePodesta or Barry keep their jobs if this is true? Like, that's your job, you're in the information business. Every mistake I've made in my career, and there's a lot of them, I've made because I didn't have enough information. I violated the first rule of scouting. Mm-hmm. And to me, when you're putting $230 million of coin on the table, you can't violate it.
Yeah, to me, it almost looks like they didn't want to know the information. If we're to believe what's being reported, that the Browns may have not known, the NFL, that Watson may have lied to them, they might have not have known everything that was in this New York Times article. It almost feels like to me that they didn't really want to know because the desperation, like you mentioned, midway through the season of, hey, we got to find a way to get a better quarterback to take us to the next level here. And I really wonder what the quote-unquote due diligence was that they were talking about at the introductory press conference, because if this is now coming out and it's some sort of surprise, or there's 2 more civil suits now that are out, if they didn't know that it was 24 women, I mean, at this point, I'm like, I don't know how many more there could come of this here. I mean, there's still a long time between now and training camp. It almost feels like they were just so desperate for a quarterback that they may have turned the other cheek.
No, they can't turn. You can't turn the other cheek on this. I get desperation. Look, everybody's desperate for a quarterback when you don't have one, but there's desperation and there's ignorance. This is ignorant. And I'm saying, to me, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt up until this point, is I can't believe that $1 billion industry has this kind of malpractice, that they're going to turn their cheek. We're talking about serious offenses. As much as I want to go and believe Deshaun Watson, as much as I love him as a player, I have to separate that from the reality of what I'm dealing with. And I have a hard time understanding how any sense of desperation that could enter into that. And then you turn around and set a record. You basically do the first fully funded guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL. So not only do you double down on it, you put all the chips in the middle of the table. You can't do that if you don't have this. So I'm saying the Browns have to know about this. I'm saying whatever Jenny's reporting, the league has to know. The league this is not we're selling it as it's blindsiding everybody. I'm saying I don't buy that. It can't blindside everybody. Like, she's a great reporter, but she can't be better than what the league has funded-wise. I mean, you hire these people to do a job. I want the answer. I need the answer. Like, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
How much of this falls, and in my opinion, I think this is the first person that should be questioned, is the owner, Jimmy Haslam. To me, it almost, the sense that I get from just watching from outside is that Jimmy Haslam wanted Deshaun Watson. He wanted an upgraded quarterback and told Andrew Berry, the general manager, told the entire front office, go get this done by any means necessary. Because initially, the Browns were in it, then they were out, then they upped the ante going to the fully guaranteed thing. That's when Watson said, okay, I'll come to Cleveland. This, to me, it almost feels like, was Berry just the facilitator of, okay, my boss wants this to get done, regardless whatever I think, I have to get him, otherwise that's my ass.
Well, the other person involved here is Haslam's wife, Dee. And so Dee is sensitive to these things as much as anybody. He sleeps with her every night. Like, I mean, they're not only partners in running this team, they're partners in life. They're having daily conversations. I can't imagine that Jimmy could tell somebody, ignore everything, just get me the quarterback, when his wife has been very outspoken, has been very demonstrative about, as well she should be, about protecting women. I find it hard to put my head around. It's an easy narrative to go down. I don't buy it. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to blame Jimmy Haslam. I'm not going to do it because his wife is running the team more than he is. And so you got to answer to her too. He's not going to a meeting without her. Like, she's protecting her vested interest in this club too. So I think that narrative doesn't work. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. To me, they've got to know, just like Houston has to know. Now, it sells more newspapers. It gets more clicks. If we pretend that they don't know or the league doesn't know, and maybe they don't, and that may be right. I don't know. But I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I mean, we're talking about serious cash. We're talking about, think about this, Femi. We're going to talk about later this block. I mean, the $240 million that he got guaranteed is more than Robert Kraft paid for the Patriots. It's more than Jeff Lurie paid for the Eagles. Right? I mean, yeah. It's so, like, you're talking about serious cash.
But I guess the reason why I'm hung up on it is because how do you know all of this information that's in this report, and there might be more information that they know that Jenny Ventris or the rest of us don't know? How do you know all of that information and still take this gamble knowing that a potential suspension, and not even suspension, just the alleged acts are just so vile that why take that sort of risk?
Well, I guess you're believing what he said at the deposition. Like, he didn't even know why he was being questioned. That was Watson's. Yeah. That's
Watson.
What
he said.
I mean, I don't know why I'm even here. And so I don't know all the evidence. I mean, I've learned in life, and Al Davis drilled this into me, is I don't believe everything I read. I just don't. I don't believe everything. I think there's agenda to everything. And I'm not saying there's an agenda here, but I don't know all the facts. I have no idea. I'm assuming the Browns do because they guarantee $240 million. Maybe that's the wrong assumption I could make. Mm-hmm. But obviously there's something here that's just not copacetic. And, he hasn't settled this. He had an opportunity to settle these civil suits. And he didn't.
Yeah. And that the civil suits, it's, if they're not settled, they won't be tried until after this NFL season. So we're not even going to get some sort of
I don't know how he plays this year. I don't know how he plays this year.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I
mean, I don't know how he plays. I don't know how there's going to be. I mean, Goodell's in a very I mean, if he says 6 games, that's not going to be enough. If he says 8 games, he's going to get killed. The league's talking about protecting women, and and he's. I mean, does he have any choice but to suspend him for the year?
That to me, it seems like that's what we're staring at. Is at first, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying 8 games. I could see that. Maybe he gets suspended for 10. They appeal it down to 8 or 6 or what have you. But the more and more stuff keeps coming out, it's just so the league doesn't want to have to deal with this and does not want this to be hanging over as the cloud of the NFL season coming up in 2022. I think this is going to be a full season, and they're going to wait until this thing gets resolved, whether it's their settlements or they try it in the civil case, because right now it doesn't look good. And I just can't get past Cleveland making this sort of a risk, not only financially, but what you give up draft pick wise, to go out and get somebody who's being accused of these things. Now, this is all alleged. This is all alleged. We don't know what exactly happened, but for there to be this many accusations and this many civil suits, and to feel comfortable enough to still trade for all of that stuff and pay all that money, maybe they know something that we don't know. But man, that to me, even if you do know something we don't know, I don't know if he's not the only good player that's in the NFL. There's other players who are good at quarterback as well. To take that sort of risk.
Yeah. But here on our network, on VSiN and on DraftKings, this lends itself to an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, how do you not take the Browns on the under? I mean, how do you not? Jacoby Brissett's the backup. You got to feel like at this point on June the 9th that there's a good chance he's not going to play. They're not a great team without a great quarterback. So how is he going to play? I mean, I think the under's in play. I think Pittsburgh's, whether Trubisky's the starter, which they say he will be, can they be improved? I mean, Mike Tomlin seems to find a way to win games no matter what. We know that Cincinnati's a good team, right? Mm-hmm. And so Baltimore's going to be improved with their quarterback back. How do you not take the under here? I mean, I know this is kind of, this is a little bit, we're talking about something very serious, then we're talking about betting, but betting is about what? Information. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's why Jimmy the Greek became Jimmy the Greek, right? You know that story. Jimmy the Greek sat there and said, okay, he grew a mustache, and his sister said, oh, women don't like men with mustaches. And so he said, really? Yeah. Well, Thomas Dewey was running for president that time. And so he had a mustache, and he was the prohibitive favorite. So Jimmy the Greek hired 3 women to stand in front of the shopping mall, a grocery store in Steubenville, Ohio, and asked women as they're coming in, do you like men with mustaches? Overwhelmingly, the information came back to him as no. So he put $10,000 down on Harry Truman and won $180,000 back in 1940 something, and that's how he became Jimmy the Greek. But he only became Jimmy the Greek through information. Mm-hmm. That's what's the power of betting, information. And so, to me, we know, based on the information we have, I don't see how Watson plays this year. I bet the under.
Yeah, and we don't see the win total at many shops. I mean, here at Circa, they have it posted. I was surprised to learn that they even have it posted. I didn't even look.
I'm surprised it's on the board, Femi. I think they would take it off the board.
That's what I thought. Other places have not posted the Cleveland Browns win total. There's still the division markets, the conference market, the Super Bowl markets. All those are up, but none of the win totals have been up except for here at the Circa. So to me, the under probably is a solid look, or maybe betting on one of the other teams to win the division, whether it's Cincinnati, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh, because right now Cleveland is being lined as one of the co-favorites in that division. I believe they're 200 plus 200 or so to win that division. I mean, that's not going to be the case if Deshaun Watson is missing the entire 2022 season. Now, we don't know that that's what the suspension is going to be, but we can speculate, and based off of all the tea leaves that we're reading and all the reports that are coming out, this to me feels like it's going to be a very, very lengthy suspension, which is going to massively impact what the Cleveland Browns are able to do the rest of the way here, because Jacoby Brissett, whether you like him or you love him, he's not going to be what Deshaun Watson could be for this Browns team, and that's what right now the odds are indicating, is that Watson will be playing a large portion of these games, which I find hard to believe.
And Baker Mayfield's not going to be playing, because Baker Mayfield's not going to come in and try to rescue them. I mean, why would he do that?
No,
and look, Jacoby Brissett's had an opportunity to lead the Colts, and he couldn't get that done. And he had an opportunity to lead Miami, and he couldn't get that done. So I know Cleveland's probably a better team than the Colts were 2 years ago, and the Miami was last year, but it's going to be hard to carry them. It's going to be really hard.
Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, and for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.